Do you have any idea how many women lie down at night with exhausted bodies but restless souls? She just wanted to sleep, that's all. To turn off the bedroom lights, bury her face in the pillow, leave the world outside and simply disappear into the deep silence of the night. But what came was not sleep. It was something older, denser, an invisible presence whispering in the dark, tightening her chest and keeping her eyes from closing. The soul wanted to speak, and she could no longer keep silent. It wasn't ordinary insomnia. It was an internal vigil, a state of alertness of a woman who had long ignored the calls of her own being. The body asked for rest, but the essence screamed for attention. She felt hunger, but it wasn't for food. She felt thirst, but it wasn't for water. Something was missing, something primal, something forgotten. Deep down, at the very base of her existence, physiological needs seemed too simple for such a busy mind. Eating was out of obligation, drinking by instinct, sleeping only when collapse was inevitable. All of this had become mechanical, but the truth was she no longer nourished herself, neither from within nor from without. It was as if she had stopped in time, living in survival mode, where the essential was no longer felt, only endured. And the body, oh, the body carried every absence: intense shoulders, tired eyes, a tight stomach. It was a temple inhabited by ancient silences, unnamed memories, unlived desires. The deprivation of rest was not punishment, it was a symptom. The body screams when the soul is forgotten. In the stillness of the night, everything emerged: the fear of not being enough, the memory of the girl she was, the woman she became, the promises made to her inner child, now forgotten in the rush of a world that demands too much and embraces too little. She thought about bills, unanswered messages, postponed tasks. But deep down, the real question was another. At what moment did I stop existing for myself? Because when there's no time even to feel hunger, when sleep is denied night after night, the body begins to fall ill. But before that, the soul is already begging for help. The internal structures that should sustain her were fragile. And it wasn't just about money, shelter, or routine. The lacking security was deeper, a security of being able to breathe without fear, to live without the constant feeling that everything could collapse at any moment, to not have to always be alert, always strong, always ready with the answer. She realized in that silent dawn that it wasn't just tiredness, it was an older void, an absence of belonging, an emotional exile. She lived between roles: daughter, mother, wife, professional, caregiver. But who was she behind all of that? When was the last time she felt joy looking at the sky, listening to her favorite music, touching her own skin without hurry? In that moment, amid the dim light, she understood it wasn't sleep she was missing. It was presence. It was being heard. It was a return inward. The soul did not want to be silenced. It wanted to be recognized, to be heard, welcomed, lived. Because as long as it remained silent, the body would continue to suffer, and sleep would keep slipping away. The journey was just beginning. The first step was to acknowledge the silent scream that had echoed behind closed eyes for years. because before climbing any pyramid, it was necessary to return to the base, to relearn how to care, to nourish, to feel, to respect the body as a temple and the soul as a guide.
The next morning, something inside her felt different. It wasn't visible to the world's eyes, but internally the ground had shifted, as if a small crack had opened in the wall that kept her feelings isolated, well guarded, out of reach. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was a sign of life. During breakfast, her hand trembled slightly as she held the cup, not from physical tiredness, but from something more subtle, the awareness of what had been ignored for so long. The soul, after so much silence, had echoed, and now it would be impossible to pretend that nothing was happening. What once was just exhaustion was now perceived as a symptom of an old disconnection between who she was inside and what the world expected her to be outside. The security she sought in every goal achieved, in every relationship maintained out of obligation, was fragile, unstable, based on structures that did not belong to her. Was there security in money? Yes, until the next bill. Was there security in marriage? Yes, until the next silent fight. Was there security in her plans? Yes, until everything slipped out of control. But inside her? Inside, there was uncertainty. Because true security, the kind that sustains the soul when everything collapses outside, can neither be bought nor won. It is built within. And that inner self had been neglected. She remembered a time when her feet felt steady on the ground, when her decisions came from within, from her own center. But now the center seemed displaced. Everything was for others, and inside only an echo of unanswered questions. It was in this silence that she began to listen, to notice the small signs, the tense body, the racing thoughts, the constant effort not to fall apart. And then the question, who am I when no one is watching? It came without warning, like a stone thrown into still water. The answer did not come easily, because she had become so many versions of herself to please, to be accepted, to avoid conflict, that the original woman seemed lost beneath the layers. The mask of the strong woman, the one who solves everything, who takes care of everyone, was worn out. It no longer hid the cracks. But maybe there was nothing left to hide. Maybe it was time to recognize that the soul has cycles, that the soul also grows tired, and that every human being, including that woman, has the right to stop, to not know, to feel fear. That's when something inside her began to strengthen. Not an explosive force that comes from an impulse, but an ancestral, silent strength born from acceptance. Acceptance of tiredness, of fragility, of the fact that true security begins when the illusion of control is abandoned. By embracing what she once rejected, she made peace with her inner foundation. She acknowledged the urgency to protect herself, not from the world, but from herself. from her own demands, from her own impossible standards. It was the first step toward the hidden pyramid, the moment when she stopped surviving on just the basics and began to desire something deeper: emotional stability, authenticity, and a peace that did not depend on others' behavior, but on the relationship she nurtured with herself. And that morning, for the first time in a long while, she breathed differently. The air seemed fuller, more real, and inside her a thought whispered, "Maybe I am safe, even without being sure of anything." Days went by, and something inside her kept changing. Not in an abrupt or spectacular way, but with the gentleness of someone slowly remembering that it's possible to live peacefully within their own skin. There were still nights when sleep escaped her, but now she understood. The emptiness was not an enemy. It was a space, a place of listening, a silent invitation to look inward. And in that intimate dive, she began to notice just how far she had drifted from what makes life worth living: human connection. Because safety without affection is a prison. Stability without connection is a sterile routine. And her heart, though used to caring for others, was starving for belonging. It was emotional hunger, subtler than physical hunger, yet far more devastating. The hunger to be seen, to be touched with truth, to speak without fear of judgment, to be with someone and truly feel that she was being felt. She noticed the messages in group chats, the automatic smiles at social gatherings, the conversations that never went beyond the surface. And there, alone with her thoughts, she realized how much she missed real bonds. Those friendships that don't require masks. Those conversations that warm your chest. Those connections that don't demand performance, only presence. She began to remember moments from childhood when love was simple, a lap to rest in, a gaze, a hand holding hers. She realized that over the years she had learned to love too much and receive too little, and that in the name of independence she had built walls too high. Now, those walls protected her, but they also isolated her. And belonging, which once seemed guaranteed by blood ties or social roles, now felt like unfamiliar territory. Because deep down, she knew, being among people is not the same as feeling part of them. And what her soul longed for wasn't a quantity of contacts, but quality of presence. So she decided to take a risk. A heartfelt message to an old friend. An invitation without fear of rejection. A longer embrace. A look that said, "I'm here, truly." Small gestures, but each one of them was a demolition of internal walls. Because allowing yourself to be vulnerable is the greatest act of courage for someone who has spent a lifetime trying to be unshakable. And the more she connected with others, the more she reconnected with herself. She discovered that belonging isn't being accepted by everyone. It's being embraced by a few, the right ones. and that this need, so deeply human and often denied, is the bridge between survival and flourishing. One of those nights, while staring at the ceiling, a question surfaced. What if I were lovable just for being who I am, without doing, without proving, without reshaping myself? The thought felt absurd and liberating, because deep down it was everything she had ever wanted. She now understood that sleep hadn't come because her heart was too heavy with all the things left unsaid, unfelt, unlived, and that to sleep in peace, she first needed to wake up to herself, to give herself what she had spent a lifetime waiting to receive from others: attention, tenderness, acceptance. The soul wanted to speak, but now she wanted to listen, and that changed everything. Night fell again, but now the darkness had a different taste. It was no longer a threatening abyss. It was a veil, an invitation to dive even deeper, because something within her was no longer sleeping, it was awakening. With eyes that could now see beyond routine, with senses attuned to what had always been there, but she had never stopped to notice: the silent strength of her own presence. She no longer wanted to just survive. She no longer accepted living by others' expectations or by molds inherited from generations that taught her to serve, to silence herself, to surrender. There was a new pulse in her chest, an urgency, a calling to live with purpose. And that's when the word self-actualization made itself felt, not as a distant concept, academic or spiritualized, but as a state of truth, an inner territory where nothing needed to be proven anymore, where each action had roots and each choice carried meaning. It wasn't about winning, it was about expanding the self, being whole, being complete, being the owner of her own being. The woman who once only wished to sleep now wanted to wake up. Not in the literal sense. She wanted to awaken from everything that kept her asleep inside her own life. She wanted to break the cycle of repetition. She wanted to do things differently, live differently, feel differently. And it began by listening to what had long been ignored: her ideas, her passions, her gifts. There was an unexplored universe inside her, suffocated by years of self-denial. She had always felt the urge to create, but told herself, "I don't have time." She had always longed to teach, but thought, "Who am I to do that?" She had always dreamed of inspiring other women, but hid behind the false humility that society imposed as a virtue. Now, all of that felt too small to fit the space that was opening within her. Because a self-actualized woman doesn't ask if she can. She knows she already is, that she already has, that she was born with everything she needs in order to bloom. And it wasn't about dropping everything and starting over, though maybe someday that would come. It was about being present, radically present, in every choice, in every breath, in every word. She wanted her life to be in alignment with her soul. She wanted to say yes with truth and no with clarity. She wanted to move not out of fear, but from intuition, from the desire that rises from the center of the chest. That's when a new kind of routine was born. Not one based on schedules or goals, but on rituals of presence. She would rise slowly, feeling her feet touch the floor. Prepare her coffee as if celebrating the start of something sacred. Look at the sky and let the wind touch her face as if it were the first time. Each simple gesture became a manifesto. I am here, I exist, and I deserve to be whole. She didn't need witnesses. She no longer sought approval. Because the self-actualized woman is no longer a prisoner of image. She becomes presence, and her existence, even in silence, has weight, has form, has power. She was now her own root, and for the first time, sleep came gently, not as an escape, but as a deserved rest for someone who is finally at peace with who she is.